The most dangerous job in America in 1917 paid 1.5 cents per dial. The girls who took it thought they were lucky. They sat at long tables in factories in New Jersey and Illinois and Connecticut, painting tiny numbers on watch faces with paint that glowed in the dark. The paint was made of radium, and they were told to put their brushes in their mouths. Radium had been discovered by Marie and Pierre Curie in 1898. By the 1910s, it was a sensation. Radium toothpaste, radium face cream, radium water you could drink, and, most usefully, radium paint, which let soldiers in the trenches read their watches at night. The United States Radium Corporation in Orange, New Jersey, hired around 4,000 young women, most of them teenagers, to paint those dials. They mixed the powder with water and gum arabic into a glowing slurry. They were taught a technique called lip-dip paint. You licked the brush to make a fine point. Then you dipped it. Then you painted. 250 dials a shift, a penny and a half each. The dust got everywhere. The women's hair glowed. Their fingernails glowed. Their dresses, when they hung them up at night, glowed in the dark. Some of them painted their teeth before going dancing. The factory called them the Ghost Girls. It was supposed to be a joke. Meanwhile, the executives and the chemists, the men in the back rooms, wore lead aprons. They handled the radium with tongs. They knew. In 1922, a dial painter named Mollie Maggia went to the dentist. A tooth came loose. He pulled it. Another loosened. He pulled that one too. By the time he gave up, her entire lower jaw had crumbled into pieces in his hand. She died in September of that year. The cause of death listed on her certificate was syphilis. It was not syphilis. It was a disease that didn't yet have a name.
Within 5 years, more than 50 women who had worked at radium factories were dead, and more were dying. Their bones were dissolving. Their jaws were rotting in their mouths. The condition would eventually be called radium jaw. The doctors would coin a phrase for the women themselves, the living dead. The companies knew, and they lied. U.S. Radium told its workers the paint was harmless. They commissioned medical exams from company-paid doctors who told the women they were perfectly healthy. When the women sued for their results, the company refused to release them. When journalists asked questions, the company said the women had simply caught syphilis or were hysterical. A chief medical examiner in New Jersey, Harrison Martland, ran his own tests. He proved in 1925 that the women had ingested enough radium to be permanently radioactive. Their bones on his X-ray plates glowed. A worker named Grace Fryer decided to sue. It took her 2 years to find a lawyer who would take the case. By the time the trial began, in January 1928, Grace's spine was collapsing. She wore a steel back brace. 2 of the other plaintiffs were bedridden. None of the 5 women on the witness stand could raise her arm to take the oath. The company stalled. They asked for a postponement until September, hoping the women would be dead by then. The newspapers turned on them. The public turned on them. In June 1928, U.S. Radium settled out of court. Each of the 5 women received $10,000 and a $600 annual pension. All 5 were dead within a few years.
The same fight had to happen again in Ottawa, Illinois. The radium dial company there had told its workers the New Jersey case didn't apply to them. A woman named Catherine Wolfe Donohue led the second wave. She testified from a sickbed at her own home, propped against pillows, weighing 71 pounds. She won her case in 1938. She died the next morning. Her victory was upheld all the way to the Supreme Court the following year. The Radium Girls didn't just survive a conspiracy, they forced the country to admit one existed. Their case is the reason American workplaces have safety standards for ingested toxins. It's the reason employers can be held liable for occupational disease. It's part of why the Atomic Energy Commission, decades later, set radiation limits for the people who would build the bomb. The women were studied for the rest of their lives. Their bones, donated to science, are still radioactive today and will be for another 1,600 years. The dial painting industry kept going. The last factory using radium paint didn't close until 1978. They were called the Ghost Girls. They turned out to be the ones who haunted the country into doing the right thing.